If you're wondering, this is why Brett Coleman-esque, even in the thumbnail. Yes, I'm stealing his ideas because someone else compared me to him, other than Alex, and a few other people compared. Jason compared me to him, and Alex compared me to another offensive lineman, and a young coach out of the UK messaged me. Said, "Oh, I love your videos. You kind of you kind of work a lot like Brett Coleman." And I was like, yes, that's kind of how I try and be. So much appreciated to anyone who said that. As you can probably tell by the different framing, this video is very impromptu and is probably going to be very lightly edited. We don't have proper lighting, hence the glare from the background, and my stand is made up of my mum's old James Patterson books. So if this laptop falls down and you don't see me for 2 weeks while I try and fix it, then you'll know why. If it is uploaded, then new idea, just me talking in front of the glaring window, or pictures of my family, or not. But today, I just wanted to walk around and talk about some of my favourite players in Europe. So these guys are just people I like watching, to be honest. I'm a bit weird. I put on my Twitter today that I was having an argument in my dreams about certain Brazilian ELF offensive linemen, and that is true. Murilo Silva, Poli Sacramento, and Amorim Octavio were those people who were involved, and I was in a bank robbery situation in this dream. I was trying to explain to the person that I was robbing the bank with, look, the Paris offensive line's great, Poli Sacramento is an excellent player, but if they had someone like Amorim in the middle with a guard, it would be great. And then Milan have got all their Brazilian offensive linemen like Murilo Silva. I like Murilo Silva. It was weird. I'm a weird person, so I just like watching American football in Europe, and I'll turn it on late night, just watch some football. I currently have a game on in the background that I can actually listen to a little bit, which is the Danube Dragons versus Vienna Vikings. So one of the players featured, actually, interestingly, is playing in that game right now, and we'll get to that. So this is just me being spontaneous. It's Happy Easter as well to those who celebrate the holiday, but I'm just basically going to be talking for however long this takes. Might be an hour, might be 5, might be 10. I guess we'll kind of find out. And I don't really like sitting down and recording. As much as I've done it a lot, it takes a while for me to get anything done. I'm always checking my phone. I would like to just stand around talking to my microphone, which is used to having a like a sound protector on it. Doesn't have that. I can look around, I can do whatever I want. I don't have a second screen, so this is just coming off the dome. So if this is something you're interested in, then please do stick around for this entire video. If this is a bit too weird and a bit too abstract for some people, I completely understand that. And yeah, let's just get straight into these players. The first player I want to ramble about is AJ Ming. AJ is a wide receiver. He just came out of UE this year. He'd not played football in like 6 or 7 years prior to coming to Bristol. So shout out to Dan Meyer. He just somehow managed to find these guys. Also Ryan Boateng is another player in the same situation where he just kind of broke out with UE. You know, the thing with the UK, if you're unfamiliar, is that UK, UE Bullets, they have all these American guys that come in. And like, we have Jaden Clark and Keanu and all these, can't say English, but you get my point. We have guys like AJ, who is a very, very, very talented wide receiver. He's going to Potsdam this season. He hadn't played in like 6 or 7 years. He just got married, so congratulations to AJ. I think he's probably on his honeymoon at the moment. But he has a crazy lengthy frame. I'm 6'3". He's taller than me. He's probably about 6'4". He's built well. He's got like long arms, long stride. Really get to his points well. He's a deep threat, of course, being that big, but he can really run intermediate routes too. And he is a very, very good blocker. Angle-wise, maybe not always the best, but physicality and motor on blocking is definitely one of the most important things for me when I'm watching a wide receiver. And he's gone to Potsdam this year, and I think that he and the receiver they had last year, Simon Fons, they're very kind of similar players. Blocking ability, length, frame, good hands, over the top plays that can really stretch the field. And I think he's going to fit seamlessly into that. Of course, he does have a long layout. He does have maybe you would say experience issues. He's only played 1 season in Europe, and he's prior to that was not playing very often. He's actually a very good baseball player as well. So maybe you could say that is an issue, but I think that it's not really. You know, he came against American corners and American DBs and some of the best British DBs that we'll get to soon as well. That the UK had to offer, and he's going to do the same in Germany. You know, he might not be a 1,000-yard receiver just yet, like he could be in the future. He's not that old, but he could be maybe, or because he's American, but he didn't go to college, so the rules with that are kind of odd in certain leagues and whatnot in Europe. But I think that he would be a very successful, maybe 600 to 900-yard receiver, especially in the GFL. Like, he has such a big size advantage and speed advantage over the majority of these people. Hands are not like what I would call the elite category. Like, his hands are good, of course. Like, you'd be silly to assume that they're not good. And he does kind of struggle a little bit with contact, kind of off the line and kind of during his routes. Like, he does a really good job of spinning out of it and creating the routes. But in terms of like balance and maybe keeping his route sharp through contact, I think is something that I would be addressing if I was a wide receiver coach. And then the next thing I'd probably be addressing is just finding space and coverage. I think this kind of comes with the experience thing of him not being active in football at the moment. It's just because the scramble drill, you know, sometimes the offensive line falls apart. Jaden's rolling left, rolling right. AJ is not as good at finding the spaces between the coverage. I think that would be how I would word it. And I think that he's going to be successful in Potsdam. I'm really looking forward to seeing him in Germany. He went very under the radar for like the whole season. I don't really know why. Like, scouting in Europe is shit, let's be honest. Like, I think there's me, there's my friend in Frankfurt, I don't know why he wants to be named, my friend in the Netherlands as well, who also is, you know, similar scout to me. So there's maybe 5? There might be some people I don't know that are doing it properly. And players go under the radar. And I think AJ is one of them, especially considering he hasn't played so long. That's why Dan Meyer deserves fucking crazy credit for finding people like this. But that's AJ Mealing. I think that he's going to be an excellent player, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him play. From the University League to the University League, we're going to go with Kade Diez. I've heaped praise on Khaled for years. I played with Khaled back in 2019. So I've known Khaled for a very long time. We've kept in contact and stuff like that over the years, and you know, we played the same position, and you know, I'm a scout and analyst, and he's a very, very good player. So of course we're going to cross paths quite a few times. Great build. He's long. He's like 5'11", but his wingspan is fucking crazy. You kind of like Onis Konambani. If you know about Onis Konambani, he's a 4-star recruit from the UK who's currently playing in America. Has about 30 offers, and when he gets into sort of stance, his hands are basically touching the fucking floor. And Khaled kind of has that same build. He's obviously shorter than Onis. Onis is like 6'2", and Khaled's like 5'11". But Khaled certainly has a wingspan. So great build, a very explosive athlete. He's an NFL Academy graduate who's now at University of Nottingham. So he is an explosive athlete and has the smarts to get into a red brick school. He's a premier man-to-man corner. He showed this by winning the Destroying one-on-one competition. Got a bunch of money from doing it. Went to the Pro Bowl camp. Had an ankle injury, so wasn't really able to show out. The thing with Kade is play speed. I mentioned this in my Ken Hike video, how he'll just kind of walk around pre-snap and then get snapped and he's waiting and he's flat-footed. He's not able to burst out of his breaks. It's a similar kind of thing with Kade. I think it's actually not a bad comp. Like, it's not the best comparison, but it's not an awful one. Kade to Ken. But with Kade, it's play speed, of course, and then it comes to his... How do I word this correctly without offending everyone in Nottingham? The scheme does not do him favours, and I think the coaching staff have not done him and his ability the right justice. And of course you're going to say, oh, but Matt, you're from Bristol, you work with Uwe, of course you're going to say that you don't like Nottingham, blah, 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 blah. Fair enough. I don't like Nottingham, let's be honest. But I can appreciate a very good player, and I can kind of see when a player isn't as engaged. This is not coming from Kade, by the way. This is coming from my opinion. I don't think he's being used correctly in that scheme. I've said to many occasions, and many people, anyone who's going to listen, Kade is probably one of the best players in the position to come out of the UK in the last 5 years. You've got Samuel Zigbo, he's went to America. You've got Kade, who is in Nottingham. You've got Miles Butt, who's very accomplished. Was at Potsdam for a bit, got injured. Was at Bristol Pride for a while. Played with Miles as well, very good player. That's about it. I would put Kade above Miles, and I think that him and Samuel, they played together at the academy, are very similar kind of like ability. Kade's a D1 player, and I think that, you know, Samuel is too. So, is he being used as effectively? You know, probably not. I don't think he is anyway. You know, they crashed out. He's had some injuries. He played through those ankle injuries, which you could question that. You couldn't question his toughness, but you could question maybe the decision making on that one. You being, you know, nitpicky. But I very much like Kade. I think that he has a future in Europe, absolutely. You know, he's fast, he's quick, he's twitchy when he is engaged. Like, he won a one-on-one competition against people who were very good. And then you're kind of seeing him maybe struggle with separation and like closing the separation on receivers in bucks. There's obviously something going on there, right? Like, he's super physical and handsy when he's actually on play. But for some reason, sometimes with these slants, he'll like overreach and he'll just be left burned. Number 13 for Leeds did it to him a bunch of times in their game. When he was playing at corner left side, literally reaches all the way over on a press, just gets beaten on a slant. Like, super simple stuff that, you know, he doesn't do very often, but for some reason in Nottingham he does. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a scheme thing, I don't know if it's an effort thing, I don't know if it's just a bad day that I watched. It could be any of the above, but I think the Kade could fit really, really well into a GFL team at the moment. I think that he could instantly improve. I would like to see him at nickel as well. Like, he has a physicality when he wants to play at nickel. So I would like to see him do that. Safety, not so much. Corner, yes. He's a natural corner. I think he could play in the slot. With that length as well, that'd be so good if you had like inside leverage. But like I said, sometimes he can overreach. So I guess we'll see how that goes. I think that someone like Berlin Adler or Berlin Rebels could really use him in that DB core, or maybe someone like New Yorker who have showed kind of commitment to British athletes with Jonathan Mavomu and with Jacob Smiley, a running back and an athlete, quarterback, running back, DB, receiver, and what they got Jonathan playing. I think he's a receiver personally, but they have him as QB and then they removed it and put as DB. So I don't know what's happening there, but I think Kade would fit very well into a GFL team. Just kind of not really getting the attention that I think he deserves. So my number 2 player is going to be Kade Diez. Jakob Csa is my next player. I want to highlight another DB. I've been a fan of Jakob for years. Anyone that knows me knows I really do like Jakob a lot. He plays for the Gladiators out in the Czech Republic First League. He's a zonal safety. He plays corner a lot for that team in the Gladiators, and they won a championship with him at corner, so can't really, you know, fault it. He's big. He's like 6'2", 205. See a picture of him, and he's just fucking yoked. Like, he looks excellent for someone of his age. He's like 20, maybe 19. I can't actually remember, but he's young. Like, he's young enough to be on the Prague Lions or the Prague Black Panthers, but he's staying with the Gladiators, which I can respect. I think he's just got captaincy, so congratulations to Jakob. He's experienced at the national level. Like, he's played for the Czech national team. He just needs a bit more fluid movement, right? So he obviously plays at corner. I think he's best at safety. He could easily play at nickel. I think that'd be a really good position for him. He hasn't closed distance fast enough, and his trigger maybe isn't in the elite category. When he gets hands on people, though, you're going to struggle to get off of him. He's so physically big that it's just hard. And if he had a safety, as a zonal safety, you know, the zonal is kind of the key point of that, because he's not a 4-4 guy, I think. I think he's a 4-6, maybe 4-7 guy. Maybe you could get that down for sure, but at the moment, I think Jakob is best set as a safety, maybe like a rotational outside linebacker in like a nickel package or a dime package. I think that's where he sees his most success, because closing distance, maybe not where I would want it to be for an elite corner. Like in the championship game, he kind of, like against the Steelers, had some issues with that, with outs. Like, he couldn't close, and his sharpness in his cuts wasn't where it needed to be for him to be an elite cover corner. Does he have better coverage than most Czech DBs? I would say yes. Am I surprised he hasn't been picked up by the Prague Lions yet? Yes, I really am. I think that him and like Jan Chris on the same team, and when you got fucking Daniel Wright, would be able to revolutionize Jakob's game. I think it'd be excellent, because Jakob probably wouldn't start on that team yet, but for someone who hit on special teams, he'd be great. I think you get him with a former Alabama starting safety that is kind of that similar build, like kind of a box guy who maybe isn't the fastest, but makes it work. Could have been a match made in heaven. We won't see it this season. We might see it next. Maybe Daniel stays, not sure. Maybe Daniel goes somewhere else. Maybe Yakob fucking follows him. Who knows? They're probably going to win another championship. The Czech League is kind of weird. I don't know too much about it, but what I do know is that the Gladiators are the best team at the moment. And I think that's probably not going to change. You've got Prague over in the AFL, who are not doing too hot, let's just put it that way. And Czech players in general, I think, are slept on. There are quite a lot of good Czech players, but last season they weren't exactly done justice because of the poor quality of the Lions. But like, the Prague Black Panthers went 14-0 and did really, really well in the AFL. And the Prague Lions got a couple wins in the ELF. So like, if they merge those teams, why couldn't the Lions kind of compete? Maybe not compete, but do they have a similar talent pool to maybe the Polish team in the Rokul Panthers? Possibly. Are they better than the Hungarian team? Absolutely. Are they going to compete with Austria and Germany? Probably not. But Yakob is a player that I've highlighted a few times on different articles and different videos and stuff like that. So a lot of people know my opinion on Yakob and how highly I rate him. And I would like to see him maybe take a step up in competition and just work on his speed and movement and fluidity in his breaks. But sky is absolutely the fucking limit for Yakob. He's so good. I'm excited to see what he does this season. I'm excited to see what he does for the national team. And I'm excited to see if maybe a GFL team takes a shot on him. He's European, it'd be easier to get him in than someone like a Brit. I know a lot of teams like to go for Brits at the moment, but he would be a very good addition to a GFL team. He could play in the GFL, I have no doubt about it. And hopefully at some point we see it. He's still young, he has a bunch of years and experience to get, and I think that if he has a good showing this year as a captain on another with a second championship ring, he might stay for a three-peat. He might maybe branch out to Germany. Who knows? Austria? Oh, that would be fun actually. If we play for like the Danube Dragons, that'd be real fun. I'd watch that. Bit of food for thought there actually. That would be kind of dope. Shadrach is a good example of like a nasty offensive lineman. You know what I mean? Like he is a bit dirty. Like, I think he might watch this, he might disagree. And I know a lot of the Pride coaches and Pride guys are going to disagree with that. But I think that Shadrach is one of the better, or if not the best, offensive linemen from Pride this year. He was used maybe not as effectively because he is really good across the line of scrimmage. Like he's very mobile. For someone of his size, he plays the whistle most of the time. Not all the time. He can get lazy if it's like, if he's just not engaged or if he's getting beat. I think he kind of loses interest. He's good across the line, so he can pull, he can stretch out, and he can go across the line of scrimmage really, really well. Maybe a touch more size. He's got the length, he's got like the weight. I just think he's a bit more muscle. He's not that old of a player, so I think give him a few months in the weight room with like a proper regime, and I think they'll sort that out. He kind of has a trouble, I think, with more experienced defensive linemen though. Like Romari Bennett is a defensive lineman at UE, who I am a big fan of, and I really like Romari. I think he's a great guy. And he had a very nice spin move. Like he was ruining Shadrach with that one. I'm not going to lie, Shadrach's not going to like that, but it was working. It was really, really working. And I think that Shadrach has kind of the slower hand speed. When he gets on them, strong, very strong hands, active hands in the grapple reset. If they do try a second move on him, and if he gets, a grip, his grapple reset is solid. But experienced defensive linemen give him trouble. Sometimes even stronger defensive linemen give him trouble. Like those less experienced lions I've watched him against, and he'll kind of get pushed back, and his feet aren't exactly set. So maybe question his anchor ability. But I think the GFL 2, like a high level GFL 2, like the Panthers are probably going to get promoted, let's be honest. And in that team, I think he'll be able to get more experience with maybe people who are less accomplished pass rushers. Because if you put him up against someone like Alessandro Fernandez, or, well, I mean, you did put him against Max Parkinson, he got kind of, people were kind of running circles around him a little bit. But given that experience, give him a good offensive line coach, and I think that he's going to be able to do really, really well. Dusseldorf is obviously where the Ryan Fire are, so there's quite a bit of crossover between those teams. And he's Italian, so maybe a future Milano player. Who knows? Could be a really good reinforcement for them if they maybe need him the year after. Gets a year in a Dusseldorf, comes back in. They're now having an IFL 2 team. I don't think he's better than the IFL 2. But if he goes from GFL 2 maybe to the Milan team, if they get promoted to IFL 1, maybe shows a good season there, gets bumped up to the first team in Milan. Maybe an ALF player in like two or 3 years. I do think he has potential to be an ALF lineman. I do. He's got the size, you know, a bit more muscle, but he's got the length, he's got the aggression, he's got like the nastiness that you need. Like, so why not? You know, I think it'll be a good development for him to be in the second tier of Germany and be with these good coaches, and then maybe in a few years he could be an ELF offensive lineman. I'm a big fan of Shadrach. I think some people in certain circles I'm in aren't a fan of the Pride offensive line. I am not a fan of the Pride offensive line. Just putting my words out there. I live in Bristol, so some of them might fucking jump me for it, but I don't think that they have a very great offensive line. I think I kind of let them down against Durham overall, and they didn't have exactly the season that they wanted to. You know, they beat everyone else except for Uwe and then Durham, but when it comes to how, and I go about this for fucking ages, I want a national league. If you're not in the UK, then North and South have different tiers in the Bucks and University American football. And the North is pretty competitive with teams like Leeds and Durham and Nottingham. And the South is just Uwe. Like Pride are fine, but they're not going to beat Uwe. So we want a national league, and it'd be good to kind of merge those North and South so you get more competitive games. Bristol know, like Pride know they're going to be coming second in that division. I would like to see kind of more, and I think it kind of makes it a bit more lackadaisical. That's why I think the play speed was said with Shadrach, when he loses kind of a bit of interest. Whereas if you had him against, you know, more accomplished guys, you know, you might pick up the pace a little bit. But that's Shadrach Arthur, a player that I think is going to be able to be translated to an ELF tackle at some point. He's definitely a tackle as well. He's not a guard, and with the mobility as well, like he could be so good in a certain scheme. And I'm hoping that Dusseldorf kind of unlock that. Raphael Kamali Boujandi is the next. Sorry if I butchered that, Raphael, my bad. I've watched Raphael in person. He's at the Vienna Vikings this season. He spent the last few years with the Graz Giants as a running back and receiver. It's kind of weird what he is, because he'll line up. He played running back in 2022, got about 300 rushing yards. Moved to receiver and got, I think, 555 yards, if I'm not mistaken, as a receiver. But he lines up in the backfield, and he'll come out, and he could be either or. So he's a kind of an athlete. He can play out of the backfield and just kind of spread out wide. Comparison to Tomiwa, maybe. Tomiwa out of Munich, or, you know, currently free agent, but formerly of Munich. In the kind of way that he can be a dual athlete, and he can play out of the backfield, and he can play as a wide receiver on the line scrimmage or off the line scrimmage. He can be extension of the run game with jets and stuff like that. But, you know, he's not Tommy Well yet, let's be honest. Like, he is a very good player, but he could be a good secret weapon for that team. He got signed there last year, and it said extended on his signing post, but he didn't play. Like, he didn't play in a game. I don't believe he actually suited up. I might be wrong on that one, but I didn't see him suited up on any of the tape that I watched. He is going to be important for this team. You know, they've got the Wigan brothers. I think that Florian is now playing for the AFL team. Anton, who I'm good friends with, so hello Anton. He might be playing, I'm not really sure, so we don't have confirmation of that one just yet. So Raphael could be legit number 2 running back behind Kari Pajarian. And if you watch the channel for like any amount of time, you know how much of a fan I have of Kari. So with Raphael, could just be a secret weapon. And I think that he has big explosive plays. I've seen him play for the Austria in the championships in 2022 in Vienna, and he was like the MVP of one of the games. He looked great. Like his ability just to take the ball and go. Like, he was a running back, right? So if you give him the ball as a receiver, he's going to be able to make a play with it. He's going to be able to extend. He's going to be able to find space. He's going to have good ball carry vision with the ball in his hands. As a receiver, he's more physical. He's not like the most physical, but he could be, you know, translation from the running back. Blocking, not great. If I'm going to be honest, you know, he kind of has more of a relaxed attitude, let's call it that, when it comes to his blocking. Wouldn't put him in the elite category. I've kind of just seen him stand and then observe like a tackle getting their shit rocked, and he just kind of waits there and doesn't, you know, chip block or try and help out on any of it. So I wouldn't say he's an accomplished blocker. But what he is an explosive change of pace who could play all over the offense and keep people guessing. That's what Raphael is to me. And I think that he, with the Vienna Vikings, will be effective. I'm not sure how much time they're going to give him, because they didn't give him any time last year. He's 20, so he's a super young player with very little mileage, and now has maybe a few months under the Vienna Vikings scheme. So I think they think that not many people know about him, but I do, because I've watched him in person. I think he's very good. So Raphael is my 5th player that I wanted to talk about, and I'm excited to see what he does for Vienna this season. So I went from the Vienna Vikings. I'm going to stay in the Vienna Vikings. Fedor Chazov, I believe that is how you say it. He's a Austrian, Hungarian with a Russian last name, and a first name. So Fedor is excellent. One of the highest rated prospects that I've ever seen as a wide receiver, like coming through the youth level. If you don't know, I work a lot with Europe's Elite, and I'll probably do this, but with youth players at some point in the next few days. But Fedor, I've been following since 2020, maybe 2021. Fucking phenomenal. Like, he's big, he's huge, he's lengthy, he has good hands, he's a deep threat. Needs more route diversity, of course, and currently he is injured. He's been injured for like the whole of the season so far for the for the Dacia Vikings, the AFL Vienna Vikings, whatever you want to call them. But he is really good, and I think that I'm surprised that he hasn't been picked up by the ELF team, to be completely honest. My comp for him is Theodor Landstrom. Kind of says a lot about what I think of him and how good he is at what he does, because Theodor is a phenomenal receiver as well, one of the best Europeans, like deep threats that we have. Fedor, I think, is the next Theodor. That kind of goes really well too. So Theodor is obviously only a little bit older, but as a comp, it matches up. You know, they can play on the X and the Y. They have good hands. They are deep usage, where they don't exactly have route diversity, or maybe the sharpest of routes coming back towards the quarterback, or, you know, necessarily maybe catching short and maybe extending plays. It's not kind of really what they are. They can do it, but it's not their forte. I really want Fedor in the ELF. I've been saying this for years. I think that he's the next fucking big thing. Just kind of waiting for him to break out. These injuries have been an issue though. Like, of course, that's hard to ignore if he's missed the first few games. I've checked all the roster sheets and he's listed as like inactive. So I don't really know what's going on there, but I guess we'll see. You know, it's kind of a bit of an odd one at the moment, because we don't really know what he's doing. There's not very much recent film. The last film I watched of him was the Danube versus Vienna in the final last season, and he looks good there. If I'm being maybe a bit more critical on his frame, I think he needs to add a bit more stature. You know, he is a younger guy, so he's going to need a bit more maybe muscle to deal with some of these bigger, more athletic DBs that he's going to find in the ELF, or even in Austria. So that would be my criticism. A bit more size, a bit more route diversity, and just keep working on being a deep threat, because that's what he is. He's not going to be a kind of guy who's Willie Patterson. You know what I mean? He's not going to come in the slot, burn you with a release, and then take it 70 yards for a house. He's going to be a Theodor Landstrom. I think that's what he is. I think that's what he can be. And I want to see him get there. So Fedor is the next player that I have on my my underrated gems list that this has become. Darren Oku, the Frankfurt nickel defensive back linebacker, listed as linebacker. I wouldn't call him that personally. I think he's too small to be a linebacker. Maybe that's me being dismissive, but Alex Mesh Media Day, he was going on the ELF Live. Silas and Nick, I want to be on the ELF Live, man. Why have I not been invited? I want to be invited to ELF Live. That sounds fun. But anyway, that aside, Darren's motor could power the fucking sun. If we plugged Darren in and just let him go crazy on a treadmill for like 30 minutes, I think that he could just power Europe for like 5 years. Honestly, he's that good when his motor plays like it's his last game. Seriously does. I advise you to watch some of his tape when he was playing for Cologne last season. Plays across the field and he's bombing it over there. I think a good example was against Paris, where he's on a nickel blitz. He gets a free release, and this is kind of what he's bad at, is his overcommitment, and angles and pursuit isn't great. Buzzes past Edwards, so Edwards is flat on his face. Turns back around, chases him back 30 yards, and ends up making the gang tackle on Zach. So it's a great play, another example from the same game. He's in like the slot. I think Kyle Sweet comes on a crossing route, catches the ball. Darren's somewhere miles away and turns back round and makes a tackle. Darren is that guy. I think that he's one of the better, if not... Is he the best nickel in the league? He might just be the best nickel in the league, honestly. I think that he's listed as a linebacker, but he's a nickel through and through. Like, he comes off the field quite a lot. He doesn't really play corner traditionally. He doesn't play linebacker traditionally. Don't know why he's listed as both of those things, but he is a nickel player. I think he deserves a bit more attention. He's got a little bit more recently on with Alex and ELF Live, and some people were starting to, I think, go back into some of that Cologne tape and realize how good that defense was. And he's one of the players that kind of stands out because he's just fucking everywhere. Like I said with the tackles, he's everywhere. Literally. So it's kind of hard when you're watching back on these tape to ignore Darren because he's just buzzing around the field, making plays, making tackles. You know, he does still have to work on his coverage as a nickel player. He needs to be a bit faster in his footwork. When he's going against people that are more experienced in the line with their hand movements and their release, he kind of struggles with it. You know, he'll try and get physical with someone like Kyle Sweet. Kyle Sweet was a Washington receiver who's one of the best in the league to ever do it, you know, so didn't necessarily work out as well for him, but I like the confidence for it to try and do this stuff on Sweet. I think it says a lot about Darren's attitude that I really do appreciate. So him coming into Frankfurt, I think he'll be able to shine a lot more. They do have a very decent linebacker. They got A-Chain in, they got a couple other people, Sebastian, that I'm forgetting. They lost Nasri, they lost Silva Gomez, so, you know, maybe it's a little bit depleted. But Darren coming in, I think, just gives them more speed. I think that was the thing that I said about last season with Frankfurt. They don't have the speed. They put Darren in there, that upgrades him immediately. So, excited to see what he does next season. And I think that he is probably the most talked about guy. I say that a lot, man. I say that too. I say that too much. I say that about Nitzlander. But everyone's now talking about him, so that's pretty cool. That people weren't appreciating him, and I got told by his former DC to go watch him, and I was like, shit, this guy's good. So I'm just spreading on the words of other people. Diego Iris, sorry for the Spanish pronunciation one again. Madrid Bravo's defensive end, more of a rush, actually I'd probably describe him as more of a pass rusher. He'll come in and out. Has good bend. I think that he's not going to be Alessandro Fernandez, but what he is a good rotationary defensive end and pass rusher who I think a lot of the other teams would like to have someone like Diego. Maybe lacks a bit of a bag when it comes to his rush moves and strength for like elite offensive tackles. It's actually Keanu Ebanks who shouted him out and told me to go watch into his tape. He was like, yeah, no, he shredded me for like a couple plays, and you know, he's fast. So I trust Keanu with a lot because he's one of the best players in Europe. So if he tells me to go and watch a player, I go and watch a player. And Diego was one of the players that he suggested, and I'm glad that he did. I think that he could be maybe a 5 to 10 sack guy, depending on his, you know, on his fitness and if he takes his bag to a next level. But he does have that speed. Twists and stunts he's not as successful at. Like lateral speed isn't as good as his maybe straightforward speed because, you know, he's a bit younger, isn't as experienced, and hasn't got as many reps against top level guys. But Diego is someone that I think could be maybe like a rotationary guy. I think that's what he is at the moment. Could he be Alessandro Fernandez? Sure, why not? He's smaller, of course, maybe not as athletic as Alessandro, but what he does have is the tools for success, and I think that he could be someone that is a good change-up for that Madrid Bravos team. Madrid Bravos look really quite good, but so unfortunate they're in that conference. Like, whoever thought to put Madrid in that conference needs to be like investigated for how much they just dislike Madrid, because oh my god, like I said, he needs experience against top level offensive tackles and a strength, and needs to, like, you know, get into a position where he can use moves that get past people. And then he's got to go against Sven Bennenbach, and then he's got to go against the Frankfurt Steven Nielsen. He's got to go against Thomas Felicia in Paris, and if he moves inside, he's got to go against Lewis Thomas at Paris, and just the whole Rhein Fire offensive line. This is incredible. And Frankfurt also have some really good pieces as well that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. This is the problem we're doing. My thing with my laptop fucking 6 meters away from me. I can't check, but kind of test my knowledge. So he's going to have a gauntlet. He really is. So I'm hoping he can kind of soak up from other pass rushers on Madrid. Because they do have Hugo Rivera, who used to play for Potsdam. I think that's his name, Rivera, definitely. So he wore number 0. So I'm expecting him to be kind of the second guy on that pass rush front. But then Diego could be in that mix and get a few rotations. So will we see him be an all-star? Probably not. I'm doubtful. But he's someone that I would like to people to keep an eye on this year and just kind of see how he develops. Because he was at Barcelona, one of the many players that left Barcelona. I don't really know what's going on over there. I've heard rumours that maybe the management isn't as confident in some things, and you know, problems. You know, they lost pretty much everyone, so there's something going on over there. I don't know. You know, it's just rumours and stuff, but there's no smoke without fire, which is kind of ironic, but with dragons and whatnot, you know. But I guess we'll see. Madrid is definitely the best Spanish team, and I think Diego is an underrated part of that. And yeah, let's talk about him now. Another player that I did not know about before I got recommended by my friend in Frankfurt, Asur Moore, receiver at the comments, German, smaller, it's only about 5'8", I think 165, 170. Fucking rapid, like really fast, sharp route runner as well. Someone I'm not going to be able to spend too much time talking about because the GFL tape is down for some reason, so I can't really watch too much of it at the moment. But from what I've seen, extremely fast, sharp routes, can take a ball 50 yards if he gets a punt or if he gets a, you know, like a short screen or a slant. He has that big play potential, but he's smaller. Like he's just slight, so needs a little bit more muscle if he's going to take contact over the top or in the middle of the field. If he's going to be an extension of the run, he needs to add a bit more mass. That's probably the glaring issue. He's still young though. Like I think he's still college eligible. He might be in his teens still. If he's not in his teens, he's in his very early, like 20, 21. But at the very most, I think he might even be still a teenager. So Asur Moore, a player that I think has great upside as a prospect and someone who I think will be big for the Comets. Because Comets love speed. They've had so many good players come through the Comets. You know, Glenn, Tomiwa, Chad Warrant, just a couple of those, you know, the British Isles and Ireland guys. And then Germans. Did Marvin Rouge play there? I can't remember, but they've had a bunch of guys come through the Comets, and I think he's the next slot receiver that is going to come out of there and really make an impact. Speaking of making a current impact, he's playing as we speak, as I record this. Destiny is playing. He's the Danube Dragon defensive end. Where's number 3? Absolute fucking baller. One of my favorite defensive ends in Europe as a whole. Young guy, huge. He had some issues in terms of like his play style last season. I was like, you know, he's really good, but he's very raw, doesn't really have much of a bag. This season he looks like a completely fucking different defensive end. That swim move he has is brutal. He has a really good ball rush. He looks stronger. He looks more fluid. He looks like he's got better finish. His closing speed has got better. His burst to close is fantastic. He wraps up. He's just doing so well, I think, as a defensive lineman for the Dragons. And how he didn't get signed to an ELF team in Austria is insane. Danube are going to be loving that because he's phenomenal, and I think that they're going to be gassed that he stayed there for another season. Next year, he could be an E-import player. Like, I think that he has that potential to be a guy that played E-import. If he was in America, he was Destiny in Connecticut, he would be a D1 player. I have no doubt about it. He has that athleticism, he has that bend as well. And I think that maybe add another couple moves into a rush back. That swim is so nice though. And he's just bullying the the offensive tackle on the right side as we speak. Destiny's just running through him. Like play after play after play. I actually haven't seen a result now. It's somewhere, I don't know, but I guess we'll find out after this. Looks phenomenal. I think that what they've done over there is really, really, really brought out the best of him. I have quite a lot of connections with the Dragons, so I've heard from different people how well he was going to do. People have been like, you know, you watched him last year and you thought he was really good. Watch him this year, you're going to think he's fantastic. That has absolutely been the case. Last year he got, I think, 7 sacks. This season, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes over 12, honestly. He looks that dominant. He's playing against Vienna, and these people are one of the better teams in the AFL. They're 2-0. And Desi's making them look like they're 0-2. So he's the last player I'm going to highlight, I think, for today's one. This is going to be a super long video. I actually don't know how long this video is going to be. I've just kind of done it off of the memory. And just kind of getting more comfortable in front of camera. I wanted to experience kind of more surroundings, because I kind of felt bored just being sat in my room. Every video kind of feels the same. I get restless. I wanted to walk around and just kind of eat biscuits and drink coffee. So hope you guys enjoyed this kind of weird format. If you did, like, subscribe, do whatever you need to do to get everything up. Remember, gym sweats at the moment, so I'm going to go hit a good chest day after this one and try and continue doing that. Happy Easter to everyone watching. Happy Ramadan for people who are still participating in that. And yeah, just like, subscribe. Near 1,000 subscribers, say that every time. Links to my board, I still haven't changed the price, but I'm meaning to. I'm probably going to do for £5. I wanted to do like a Discord thing, but I don't want to do a Discord thing if like no people are going to go to it, because I want to be sad if I was in a Discord call on my own. But I would like to do like a subscription for like £5 a month, where people just see private videos of me talking to camera, or you know, my prospect rankings and how I value certain players and my grading system that I use. And I'm going to be doing this format for some of the bunch of guys who are in the youth level. Probably my friend Chris Stoneman. He's a French-American, well, you know, it's a complicated subject. He's an American defensive end that plays at Oberlin. With Parker Rogers, of course. Everyone knows Parker, my good friend and my host on the Reach and the Elite Cast and everything else that we've done together. So that could be pretty fun, just spitting about some of our favourite prospects. And that's kind of where we're at. I don't think I've got anything else to check in. So hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you later. Thank you and goodbye.